This is the Power Element Podcast, episode 39. My name is Paul. I produce the podcast. I'm a journeyman lineman by trade, and today I step in as host for this special episode. All right, a special guest today is Journeyman Lineman Aaron Leblanc. Aaron is a lineman from Canada, and he's amassed a great following on YouTube. You might know him as Bobsdecline from YouTube. Aaron shares this POV, this blogger style video content on YouTube. It's really in-depth, extremely informative. It's really entertaining. So it's a great job. He's been super consistent and built this huge following. Just a really good message and just an awesome guy. First time I got to meet him here this past week. We record this episode live. It's a live event. The 2023 Milwaukee Tool Pipeline. Such a great event. Pipeline is an event where Milwaukee shares its latest and greatest. Not only power utility, but electrical, carpentry, general construction, outdoor, even some outerwear stuff coming out. Awesome, great stuff. So you're going to head on over to MilwaukeeTool.com/pipeline. It's going to have all the products that we talked about, plus all the other ones from all the other industries. Such great, creative, innovative stuff coming out from Milwaukee Tool. All right, our only promotional partner going to be highlighted is, of course, going to be Milwaukee Tool on this episode. All right, since the company began in 1924, Milwaukee Tool has led the industry in developing innovative solutions that deliver increased productivity and unmatched durability for professional construction users. Head on back in the podcast library, and check out episode 33 with Steve Sarnosinski and Mike Dumoy if you have not already. Head on over to @Milwaukee Tool on Instagram. All right, thank you to Daniel Sanchez, son of Journeyman Lineman Easy Sanchez. Daniel provides us with all of our music. Such a talented young man. I'll put his information in the show notes. All right, last but not least, I want to thank the entire Sturgeon, California workforce. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. All right, let's get to the show. The Power Element Podcast, episode 39. Aaron Leblanc, live from the 2023 Milwaukee Pipeline. Enjoy the show. The Power Element Podcast. Coming to you live, 2023 Pipeline, thanks to Milwaukee Tool. We will continue to disrupt our spaces, leverage our people, our tools. That's from Steve Richmond this morning, the president of Milwaukee Tool. All right, joined by a special guest all the way from Canada, Aaron Leblanc. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man?
Last night we met, had a good dinner.
That was awesome.
Went to downtown Milwaukee office. What'd you think?
Man, this place is incredible. I never imagined being at the Milwaukee headquarters for the Pipeline event. The tools here, the people, everything. It's wild.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
You feel that high standard just from the moment you walk in. Obviously, everyone knows Milwaukee Tools, but you actually meet the people behind it. It's top to bottom, just one of the coolest things you could ever be involved with.
Yeah, man. Like I've been talking to some of these people for years. Even yourself, we talked on the phone there last week. And then when you connect in person, you meet the person. It's almost like I've known you my whole life. And everyone's like that. Everyone here. The atmosphere is amazing.
Yeah, a little rundown with the Pipeline. It's Milwaukee Tool releases their new products. They bring out some influencers, some content creators, and they kind of just hype it up. Everything's here. General contracting, you've seen the plumbing, we've seen outdoor, you can hear the saws going. Unbelievable. Milwaukee Tool is just kind of taking over construction, just anything. Even we're seeing some outdoor, not even just workwear, just some leisure wear Milwaukee's kind of making.
They've literally tapped into every aspect of the market when it comes to trade work. And what's blowing my mind, some of these tools that I've already seen and used over the last few years, that I was like, this is the best ever. They're re-releasing stuff even better somehow. It's they're competing almost against themselves by coming out with constantly new, improved, better, more versatile, ergonomical products.
I think I heard someone say that too. They're just spreading the gap from the competition, and you're competing with yourself. The standard's super high, and it's great. As a user, you get to reap that benefit. I kind of want to talk to you about some of the products, especially we'll go to the power utility. Is that cool?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Crimper, we saw the 6-ton crimper, the utility crimper. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, they've had a 6-ton linear crimper. They've got a few new to the market ones. The latch crimper, it makes a more even press. It doesn't tend to banana the sleeves as much.
Yeah, even it's going to take a lot of that maybe operator error out of the equation, and you're going to see a real nice clean sleeve, like you said, not bananaed, and just that linear design of the weight distributed in like an ergonomical handle. Incredible.
Oh, it's well balanced. The swivel head on it can adjust to any angle. It's like when you're doing line work, you're hanging off a pole half upside down, and you're not always able to use a tool in the way it's intended to. You kind of got to make it up as you go. You're holding it in awkward positions, and with that linear press, you're able to use it in any direction.
Yeah, 340. All those crimpers, they rotate 340 degrees. Pretty neat. They have the 11-ton. We saw the 11-ton crimper too. That was pretty neat. The dialless utility crimper. That's going to be the new Force Logic battery. The Force Logic battery changing the game, man.
Yeah, no, big time.
Efficient, durable, charges faster. They said 15 minutes, 80% charge, and you're good to go.
Yeah, man. Did you see the 5-inch cutter, the wireless cutter?
That's probably one of my favorite things.
So we've got the 3-inch at the office right now, and it'll cut big cables, like 500 MCM cable. She'll cut it, no problem. It's wireless, so you can use it in a live vault essentially, where you have a permit out on one cable. You got to cut that cable. Last thing you want is a guy to be down in the ground in that vault. Maybe you got the wrong cable. Chances are you don't, but it's not something you want to gamble with your life. That's dangerous stuff. So you can operate this cutter from 200 feet away. And the one that they've introduced today, it's got a 5-inch on it. We actually cut a 3-phase 500 MCM
like
cable,
butter.
Like butter.
Yeah.
Went through it. During the demonstration, they actually went outside the building, around the corner on the other side of the concrete wall, and operated that wirelessly.
And that remote's pretty cool too, because it's a 3-step process that you kind of have to code real simple to activate it. So it's not you're not gonna trigger that button on accident.
Yeah, exactly. Like that cutter's intense. If that's sitting around and somebody's got their arm in there for a reason, I mean, you definitely shouldn't have your arm hanging out in there, but and I don't know, you got the rope in a bag around the corner, or somebody else takes the remote out and hits a button, it's not going to operate. There's actually, I don't want to say complicated process, but there's definitely an intentional operational process to make those jaws operate. So
yeah,
they've really thought of everything when it comes to the safety of this tool.
Yeah, and that same cutter could be, like I said, remotely, or you can cut it.
You can manually operate it.
Manually,
yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. I'm glad someone's smart here. We talked about the 12-ton Kearney linear crimper too. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of Kearney too much, but when you do, it's going to come in handy.
Yeah, guys that like it a lot. If you've got a lot of investment into the Kearney style dies, well, now Milwaukee has a product that's compatible with those dies. There's a lot of companies out there that still use that product. And
these are all linear too. It's all even when you get to the 12-ton, which obviously can be a little bigger in weight and size, but you're not. It's not cumbersome. It's a real nice design. And you and I were talking about it. Can maybe like generation 1 of the Milwaukee Tool. It was kind of a mold. It was just a real box body, but you can see even just the mold is now ergonomical. It's kind of streamlined to really distribute that weight, top to bottom, man. Just unreal.
Yeah, the linear design. There's multiple presses that they have at this event, and they vary in weight and size, but they all have that same linear design. And when you're holding it at the location where you squeeze the trigger, it's pretty well perfectly balanced front to back.
Yeah. The hand tools, you check out the hand tools, electrical hand tools?
I did, man.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, pretty well. I mean, there's got to be thousands and thousands of tools here.
Yeah.
I'll upload some stuff another point in my channel with just a quick panoramic view of all the tools and stuff here. And it's hard to take it all in. You could spend all week here playing with all the tools they got. And the real neat thing is they have setups so that you can use the tool for their intended function. So there's some plumbing equipment where you can actually use the camera going in through pipes, and they have it all set up so you can try it in almost a real world experience.
Yeah. We got to see the new products released, and like you said, hands-on to kind of get a feel for the product and get some feedback to the the team that actually kind of designed it, and they're looking for our feedback, so which is kind of cool. Is there anything you've seen outside of the industry, I guess, that kind of you liked from Milwaukee Tool? Actually, hang on, we didn't talk about the pole saw. Well, the telescopic pole saw.
And actually, as you were coming into that question, they have a section for utility linemen, and there's a separate whole area for outdoor products.
Yeah.
And that's definitely hands down my favorite section outside of my particular trade. For one, because we work with arborists in our trade quite a bit. A lot of their equipment we have stocked on our trucks. But even work aside, in my personal life, I went out and I purchased a lot of their gardening tools, the power rake and the whippersnipper and the blower and all that stuff. And man, it's incredible.
Whippersnipper, that's a real word for it?
I don't know. Is that a Canadian thing? Whippersnipper? I think they call it a trimmer, maybe. Anyways, yeah. So in Canada, we call it a whippersnipper.
Pruning shears.
Pruning shears. Yeah.
What did you do about that pole saw, though? The telescopic pole saw.
So we actually tried it side by side with a gas saw, and not a cheap gas saw. It's one I actually own myself. And the battery Milwaukee pole saw was faster cutting through a 10-inch log than the gas saw. It's incredible. I don't know how
my corded blower is obsolete now because of the cordless Milwaukee blower. Like they've built. Before, you used to lose power.
Yeah.
And a battery power now, you're better. You're better gas. It's better than gas. It's better than the corded. So the corded.
It's actually got more power than the gas.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of. Even two years ago, that was unheard of.
Yeah. Definitely. And I can see that. Like you said, if we'll get into your story a little bit, but you're a lineman, and you're a troubleman.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you might need a little line clearance or a little pruning done or something going on.
So most of the work I do is reactive, more so than preventative. Like you said, I'm a troubleman. I drive solo, keep the truck at the house 24/7, 365. And I get called out to anything and everything that has to do with power lines. It could be an outage, could be a customer concern, could be a safety concern from even the city calls. Maybe they see something. So I'm always the one that goes out and investigates. And once I show up, if I need some backup, I call whatever backup I need. But a lot of times I'm able to rectify the situations on my own, following all of our procedures, of course. And a super common one is trees. We live in Canada where it's snow half the year, and then the other half it's rain and sun. And you go up in the boom 70 feet in the air and look over the city, and it just looks like a forest with buildings popping up in between. There's trees everywhere. So it's super common to get emergency calls that involve trees. And these battery tools, even we can't operate a chainsaw when we're by ourselves, company policy.
Oh, wow.
So I've got a couple Milwaukee Sawzalls that I actually use now to cut tree limbs down. You can't use them on energized stuff, of course.
Yeah.
But knock the power out, I can safely remove an entire tree with a Sawzall and a battery in one hand. It's incredible.
Yeah. Cool stuff, man. And the team's kind of hinted to us there's going to be some new releases here over the years. They didn't tell us what, which is fine, but I don't know what you're going to come up with next. Milwaukee Tool is going to come up with next. It's kind of interesting.
It's almost like nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah.
I've had my mind blown by some of these tools and equipment so many times that now if they come up with a battery operated flying saucer to get to work, like I'd be like, okay, cool, that's a good one. Like I don't think I'd be that surprised.
That's true. A battery powered flying saucer to work. That'd be the new way to go. Milwaukee Red too.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything surprise you today?
I think I'm overwhelmed by the event as a whole. I haven't left Canada in over 20 years. So the trip was pretty overwhelming coming through. I had some pretty busy airports I went through, and I was by myself and that. So I'm not used to seeing the bigger cities and that as much. And then now that I'm here and into it, everyone's been really friendly and amazing and easy to work with. You can literally, there's over 100 people here, and you can walk up to anyone, just start chatting.
Yeah.
And even though it's all different trades, it seems like there's a general brotherhood within trade work as a whole.
Yeah.
You automatically almost have a respect for people because you know everyone here is in the industry. They're hard workers. They're working to put food on their tables, right? So there's almost an instant respect, and it's super easy to get along and talk with these people.
Yeah, I would say, hands down, obviously we all know the Milwaukee Tool, but the people behind the tools are amazing, knowledgeable. Any questions, the feedback that they want is, they don't want you, they want you to find something wrong and give them that feedback so they can go back and get that stuff right. So Special thanks to Steve Sarnosinski, the VP, Milwaukee Tool here. He's been on the podcast. Mike DeMoit, appreciate them inviting us out here. Kelly, our good friend right here. And the power utility team in there. Jack Fisher, Jack Smiley, Kim, and missing the boss's name. Troy Marks. Big shout out to them.
Yeah. And to elaborate on what you said, like some of the conversations I had with some of these people was we're talking about a product, and then all of a sudden I kind of go on about some complaints the guys had. Like back at the office, we have 20, 30 guys, and every one of them say, I'm not using that because of this. And the second they hear that, you can kind of see their ears perk up. That's the information they want to know. They want the honesty. They don't want somebody that's come here and just say, "Oh, this is the greatest thing ever."
Yeah.
When meanwhile there's flaws, because it's going to surface if you release something, and the people that are checking out your products know that there's a flaw and they don't bring it to light, and it comes out in the field. Then that's no good for anyone. It's no good for Milwaukee. It's no good for the promoters. It's no good for the people using it. So it's really neat to have a community of people that are willing to accept that feedback, good or bad.
And the amount of detail that goes into that feedback too, of whether it's one key, whether it's a lanyard attachment that's intentionally put there so you're not modifying the equipment or the tool.
They'll literally move a button on the tool.
Yeah.
If you see my thumb can't reach this button and I got to readjust my hand, they'll re-release it and move the button. It's insane.
The manual retract on the crimper too, super sweet.
Oh yeah. You don't have to move your hand in throughout the entire operation. You're not opening the jaw. You're not having to readjust. Like it's super ergonomical. I wish they had this stuff 20 years ago when I started.
Yeah.
Because my elbows and shoulders would be in a lot better shape.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have that natural wear and tear of the trade, but I think this stuff can kind of help the longevity of your body.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it used to be when some of these tools first come about, a lot of guys didn't use them because they were slower. So they'd say, like, what are you doing using that battery tool? It takes forever. Like, we're in a hurry to get going. And while the mentality of that type of work changed, you don't have lead hands and foremen telling guys to hurry up and get going on stuff because safety is promoted so much. But it's the point now where you can use all these tools and they're actually faster than anything we've ever had.
Yeah, and they hold a charge. You're getting a lot of use out of that one charge, so you're not running back to the battery, or you're not in the middle of a cut or a crimp, and you're concerned about the life of that battery. So you're seeing an optimal usage of power, and real sweet, good detail, man. 110%. Just super impressed with Milwaukee Tool and what they have going here. So
it's funny you mentioned the battery and the charge and running back to it and stuff. When I first got a hold of the very first crimper Milwaukee issued, I literally sat in my truck during lunch hour and held the trigger down, did a full crimp and released. And I was like, I'm going to do this until it's not crimping no more. And I think the number was 315.
That's pretty good.
It's been a few years, but 315 crimps on a 2 amp hour battery is pretty neat. And that was the very first generation.
And then we're talking about 2007. I think Steve Richmond was saying this morning, like, this is a fairly new, and it's just taken over by storm. The lithium ion, just the development, the training, just this whole snowball of just success has been pretty awesome.
It's literally a game changer to not only our trade but to the entire work industry.
Yeah, cool, man. If you could choose one thing to take home with you today, what would it be?
Oh, definitely the pole saw. 100%. Love it.
I'm gonna take that vacuum. There's this auto detailing vacuum over there I want.
Something else. I have an weird obsession with flashlights, and you can never have too many flashlights.
Flashlights for knives.
Yeah. Flashlights with knives. There you go. Oh. Then you got the stand up. It's not the M18. They got the big. I can't remember what you call it there. It's the
floodlight,
the tripod floodlight there.
Yeah.
Man, that thing's wild. Like, you can light up an entire hockey rink for the kids with that thing.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'll take one of those too.
Yeah. Put it on our list there, Kelly. Cool, man. Let's go into you.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself. Start from the beginning if you want.
Start from the beginning, man. All right. So out of high school, I joined the military.
I know.
Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Learned a lot. Was in the military for 3 years. Armored Corps. I was technically part-time as a reservist, but I did full-time contracts. Learned a ton of stuff. Enjoyed working out in the field. And I knew it's not what I wanted to do for a career, but I knew I wanted to work outdoors. I didn't want to be confined to an office. My attention span's way too short to show up at the same place every day to work. So I met a nurse at the hospital. Her husband was a lineman. I had no idea what a lineman was. Like, no idea. It's almost like a light bulb went off, and I was like, oh yeah, there's power lines out there. How do they get there? It's kind of like a secret trade. You always hear people talk about, like, oh, I'm going to get into plumbing or electrician, and everyone knows what they do. I literally had no idea what a lineman did. Just restore power when the power was out. Like, they just sit and drink coffee the rest of the year. So I talked to him and got into the trade. Loved it from day one. I didn't know what to expect.
How old were you when you got in the trade?
20 years old when I got into the trade. So 20 years ago. And like I said, absolutely loved it.
You started as a groundman?
No, I went to college.
Okay.
So in Canada, not all of Canada, of course, but in our province, you apply to a college and you work with a local utility for your training for a year. And basically the purpose of the college is you're a college student. So if you pass the course but you're not quite what the company's looking for, then there's a whole hiring process once you pass the course. So there was over 300 people that applied. They took, I think it was 12 of us, and they announced they were hiring maybe 6 or something like that. So I made the cut, which was incredible. I didn't think I'd make the cut, but
why not?
There was a lot of guys there with a lot more experience than me, a lot older than I was, a lot better physical shape. I was always a really small guy, but I was able to use technique to be able to do the work. So I didn't have any trouble. I never struggled with the trade as far as climbing poles and doing the work physically and stuff.
You feel like you caught on pretty quick?
I caught on really quick, yeah. I think the first or second day I was drilling a hole with a bracing bit and I couldn't get it to bite. It kept letting go and I got super frustrated and the trainer was kind of looking at me. All the guys on the crew were just jacked, like super good shape, and here's me, skinny little 150-pound guy that can't even drill a hole. And he told me straight up, he's like, you're not cut out for this, dude. And I looked at him, I was just mad. And I was like, not cut out, here we go. And I just started drilling holes. And the next day I came in and I framed every pole on the job site with a bracing bit by myself just to show him that he was wrong. I wanted to prove him wrong. And from that moment on, I didn't really struggle with trade at all. I caught on really quick, took a lot of interest to it. Just absolutely loved going to work every day.
Yeah. Do you find yourself better at some things physically than other people, or except me personally, I struggled like up to my 4-step apprenticeship, my 5th step. I fell behind. I wasn't catching on. I didn't understand the flow of the job. I felt myself getting better, but man, I was like, I gotta improve. So it took me to get on a good crew, and finally I felt that switch of like, okay, I understand my role and what needs to happen.
Obviously people learn and progress at different points. And for me, I see a lot of apprentices come through the trade now. A lot of them come on my truck for a week or two, and I'll kind of show them the scope of the job as far as troubleshooting. And as long as the guy has the right attitude and is willing to learn, then he's going to succeed. If I have a guy that's struggling and I'm starting to doubt his ability to do the work, and he says, Aaron, I want to be a lineman, this is what I want to do, then he's going to do it. As long as that's what he wants and he has the right attitude, he's going to do it. Now, of course, there's always things like you'll have guys that really want it, but just can't get over the fear of heights. There's something there that's preventing them from the job that they no matter what attitude you have. I mean, if you're scared of heights, you're scared of heights. And unfortunately, the trade requires working at heights.
Yeah.
So it's not black and white for sure. But generally speaking, if you have the right attitude, you're going to find the right guys that are going to help you along. They're going to train you. And once you got it, you got it. There was guys that 6 years in the trade, and I was nervous about them going out being alone and stuff. And of course, we accommodated that. We're not going to send a guy out alone that's not ready to be out there working alone. And all of a sudden, one day, it's like it clicks. The guy's just like, I got it. And he becomes a really good lineman. And I've seen that happen time and time again.
It's weird how it clicks. You can, just from a day, or just not an incident, maybe just a situation that opened your eyes and have a realization of like what your role is, how the job's going to roll, and what your pole partner's role is. Like it just clicked. For sure.
And some guys, some of the best linemen I know struggled in school because there's a lot of math stuff, a lot of formulas, algebra, geometry. If you struggled in grade 11 math, it's going to be tough. And we had some linemen that were best of the best out in the field. And when we went through the hiring process, they were low on the list because they had a low score, because the schooling takes into account your points you get for your score when you get hired. And it was really unfortunate because once you get out into the real world, you don't really use that math stuff anymore.
Yeah.
But So if you get to the point where that's holding you back, it's worth finding help. It's worth getting a tutor. It's worth just pushing through that part of the training. Because once you got it, then you don't really have to worry about it a whole lot.
Yeah. And it's that practical knowledge too. You'll be able to incorporate into the job, and that's tough too, because you said there's in the trade you can have a physically gifted lineman, and then sometimes it's that schoolwork that kind of holds you back a little bit. That's kind of tough too. I'm not a great test taker too. I struggle with math, absolutely. So.
And at our company, at least, if we come across somebody that we're like, wow, this guy is going to be an awesome lineman, and he's really struggling with schooling, we'll get him the help he needs. As long as he wants to learn. If he wants to be a lineman, we will get him there, 100%.
Yeah. So when you get in the world, and then when you get to the crew, and you're good to go, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what you want. Yeah. I want guys that can get out there and do the work.
Yeah.
And we'll leave the math stuff to the engineers and that.
That's right. How was it when you topped out? What kind of lineman were you? Were you a hard ass? Were you a yeller screamer, or did you just kind of just ease into it and just kind of always wanted to teach, always just wanted to learn?
Our company's super diverse because we're not a small city, but we're definitely not big. So when we train our linemen, we train them on all aspects of line work. You have to learn to do substation work, subtech, overhead, underground, transmission work, meter work. There's a lot of training. And there's, of course, some extra courses. You can take 3-phase metering courses. You can take confined space rescue training. And first thing I did was I went after every bit of the training available. Because how are you supposed to know what you want to do if you haven't tried something? Like eventually you can settle into a job where you're only doing 3-phase metering. So I want to make sure I was certified in all aspects of line work that was available at our company. And once I started nearing the end of that process, I had two ideas in mind. I always wanted to work out of a chopper. I wanted to do chopper work.
Yeah.
And our province isn't big enough to have consistent chopper work. So the guys might go up, do line work out of a chopper, maybe a week out of the whole year, kind of thing. So it wasn't realistic, and I didn't want to leave my hometown. I would, of course. I didn't think I'd have a choice, but once I got a position in my hometown, I was quite content with that. And so then I wanted to be a trainer. I wanted to take the training crew. So I started covering vacations for the trainer. I take the crew for a couple of weeks while they're gone. That was kind of my path within the company. And before I ever walked into that position, before it became available, I got a position as a troubleman. And it's a really unique position that I work at my house. I don't go to the office in the morning. I have the truck at home at my house 365 days a year. And I've established an incredible relationship with the community, with the trades in the community, with the emergency services in the community. And I love work so much right now that I found my path. And that was about 8 years ago.
Yeah, and I guess when you kind of get that community bond too. I know in your videos, and we'll get to that, like some of the people recognize you, and it's always a good thing to have. I don't know, just that support too.
It's the support from the community. Sometimes you don't have great relationships with certain people in the community, being the power company.
Yeah.
And over the years, it's gotten to the point now where if there's ever an issue, people will literally contact me and say, I was just told there was a scheduled power outage because of this, and how can they do that? I don't think it's right. And I'll explain to them, look, we found an emergency situation that we have to repair. If we don't repair it, it could fail at any time. Yeah. So it's in our best interest and your best interest as a customer to have this repaired at this time. Unfortunately, it's inconvenient for you, but we tried to schedule it at the most convenient time for the majority of the people. Say like on a Sunday at 3 a.m. So we're going out Sunday at 3 a.m. And once I talk to them, then they're just glad to have an answer. They're glad to understand. And it's gone so far now as to, I cover a large area. It might take me an hour and a half to get to the other end of my district. And if there's a vehicle accident, before my dispatcher even calls to dispatch the accident that came from 911, I usually have pictures sent from either one of the volunteer firefighters or someone in the community of the accident, of what's going on, whether it is a true emergency, because they always come in as an emergency. They're like, Aaron, there's an accident. We need an ETA. How long till you can get there? And I'll already have on my phone a picture from one of the volunteer firefighters. He'll say the pole's broken, it's laying in the road, traffic's blocked, but everyone's safe. Nothing's on fire, everyone's safe. So while I still got to get there, the road's closed off. We got to get there fast.
Yeah.
but I know nobody's going to get hurt. So it changes your head rolling into that situation. You got an hour drive and your head's going over every possible scenario. But where I've established such a great community with everyone in my area, I'm rolling into these situations knowing what I need to do, what I need for support. So if I do get the call and they say, the car's on fire, like the guy's still inside, you can even give them a bit of advice, like you can't touch it. Tell the person to jump out, keep their 2 feet together, jump out and hop away from the car. And I'll call the office. I'll say, get 2 more trucks, start heading this way. And I'll have the backup I need going into a situation that I'm already half understanding.
Yeah. How do you think being a troublesman has helped you just as your career as a lineman? You've seen a whole different troubleshoot side, just a whole different problem solving side.
You see something new every day. When you train a lineman, you could be saying, when you roll into this situation, this is how you troubleshoot it. If you find this is what it is. And you almost have a procedure for everything. Yet somehow, almost every day still, you're rolling into trouble calls. And you check and you say, okay, if this connection's bad, I'm gonna get this for readings. And then all of a sudden you don't. You're like, this doesn't even make sense. And it might compound with other problem areas in the line that, like electricity, sometimes you don't get the numbers you always expect. And there's so many variables, especially with multi-grounded system and bonding and grounding and stuff, that you really learn to check everything. You really learn to troubleshoot well and make sure you don't leave any stone unturned. Because the worst thing is you find a problem, it makes sense, you tell the customer, you're smiling, you're like, I found it, you're not going to have any more trouble, you walk away, and they call the next day. You almost feel stupid. And then you're like, man, next time I roll into that situation, I'm going to check this, and you want to check everything. So you learn a lot troubleshooting, and you learn every day.
What advice would you give to a lineman thinking about taking a truck as a troubleman?
It takes a lot of your time, depending on the company, of course. But if you're doing troubleman where you're on call a lot, sometimes it's busy. You could be at Christmas dinner with your family. You could have brothers and sisters that flew in from across the country. And while, of course, I can always talk to the boss and say, like, look, I got this big family dinner. Can you get someone to cover for me? It's never a problem. But sometimes maybe a storm hit. All the guys are already out. And you're expected to work. I mean, they're not going to drag you off the table, for sure. But you're within reason, you're expected to work. And sometimes it can be tough. You just settle down for a movie at night with the wife, and you're like, geez, I'm super tired and relaxed. All of a sudden the phone rings. Sometimes you got to go. Sometimes there's not someone ready and available. It takes a lot of time. But if you enjoy your work, it's easy. I remember growing up in high school when I worked at a local grocery store. Sunday'd come along, I'd be like, oh, I got to work today. And you just dreaded it. You watch the clock all day. And as a troubleman, the time just flies by because I love my job. It's easy to go to work. Yeah,
it's unique. You're kind of that lone soldier, if you will, where you're kind of out there and you're troubleshooting and you're the expert. You have your support from your company and your coworkers, but most of the time, like you said, you're rolling out there alone, and you're kind of working through the best case scenario and giving the information back to dispatch about what how we're gonna, what's the best way to solve this problem. So
yeah, exactly. And over the years where I've established the community, a lot of times I know going into it what I'm going to need. So it's not like I drive for an hour, show up, get into a really messy situation, then have to wait another 2 hours for guys to come in from home. If there's any doubt in my mind whatsoever that I might even need help, I'll get the guys on the go, and they're usually pretty close behind me.
I gotta imagine too, because it's pretty gratifying too, because most of the trouble calls might be just clearing a line, maybe replacing a fuse. You had a rodent got in between some bushings.
Yeah, a lot of rodent calls, a lot of tree calls,
yeah,
a lot of replacing fuses.
And you can turn the power back on and be the little hero, man.
Yeah, put the little white glove on, secure him at the window and wave as you're going down the road. Yeah.
Parades later. Man, that's dope. All right, I kind of want to talk, well, we do want to talk about your YouTube, man.
Yeah.
What do we got? Bobsdecline, huh? What's going on there?
Bobsdecline, Lineman Blogger. So
9 years ago?
Well, I started posting to YouTube 9 years ago, just general stuff. But I really started the Bobsdecline channel about 4 years ago. And I encourage anyone that's going to ask, why is it called Bobsdecline?
That's my question right here.
I did make out a video. It's a long story. I'll touch on it real quick. But there's a video called Who is Bobsdecline? Check it out. It's like 17 minutes of me explaining. But basically, in high school, I didn't own a computer. And once I got grade 10, 11, 12, all of our assignments had to be typed up and submitted via computer. So I had to go to a public library to use their computer. And I was super sketched out by using a public computer and having an email and stuff. And anytime I used a public computer, I put my name in as Bob. Just super random generic name, Bob. So when I set up my email, I put Bob at whatever it was, yahoo.com. And of course it didn't come up. And I tried Bob 123, Bob 6789, Bob whatever. Just nothing worked. And there was a song called "The Decline" by NoFX that I was listening to. And
punk rock, huh?
Yeah, punk rock music. Yeah. Used to love them guys. And I just typed in Bobsdecline and at yahoo.com, and it just worked. And I was like, all right, cool. So that's my email. And so I set up my YouTube. Like I said, it was probably 9 years ago, and I just used that old email. And when I started making videos on line work, I didn't think it would go anywhere. It's like, I'm going to stray a little bit here, but one of the earlier videos I made, the locals were really upset that the power was out. And they went online. They said, not a breath of air. There's no snow. It's not cold. It's not hot. And power is out. They're like, started blaming the power company on the condition of the infrastructure. But what caused the power outage was beavers that chewed up a tree and knocked it on the lines. So I took out my phone and I just recorded it, and I put it on the Facebook page with the locals and said, this is why your power's out, guys. It was a beaver. Like, it's an hour out of town. I'm here. We found the problem. We removed the tree. Here's some more beavers. Like, I don't know what we're going to do about them. They might knock down some more trees, but we closed the line back in. That was it. And the locals took it really well. They were like, wow, I didn't know beavers could knock out power. And so I posted it on YouTube, and I got a few views. And I never thought I'd ever use the channel to show linemen all over the world, or the general public, what we do. But once it started taking hold, I started panicking, and I said, Bobsdecline, that sounds kind of ridiculous. Like, it's almost depressing. Like, why is Bob declining? And so I was going to change it to, I don't know, like
Canadian Lineman Blogger,
Canadian Lineman or something like that. But then I was like, no, all the channels out there refer to the word lineman. And I was interested not only in sharing tips and tricks of line work with the trade, but I was interested in explaining to the public why it takes so long to restore power sometimes, and explaining to the public our procedures and what the trade is for someone that has kids that's interested in getting in the trade. So I just kept the name because it makes you kind of curious. It's like, what the heck, Bobsdecline? What is that?
Yeah, you're thinking your name's Bob, or you're thinking something, but it's totally off the wall. And I can kind of agree with you. Being creative like that is kind of unique.
It's kind of unique. It's kind of got an OG, like, no one's ever mistaken for the word Bobsdecline. I don't know. It's unique. When you hear it, you don't forget it.
That's dope, man. What was the initial goal with the YouTube channel and blogging?
The initial goal was to kind of educate people, because when sometimes, it happens all the time, where people say, what do you do when the power is not out? Like, they think we literally sit and drink coffee all day waiting for the power to go out. Yeah. But it's crazy busy. Like, you're working some days crazy hard. You might have been pulling underground wires. You might be in confined spaces, and you're setting up a new service for an apartment building, and then you end up grabbing a coffee, and someone's like, oh, geez, power hasn't gone out in months. Bet you guys like this. And it's like, no, the power outage calls are usually easier than the new construction stuff. So I wanted to educate people on our trade. And initially, actually, my main goal was to educate people on our trade. But the initial viewers were other linemen, mainly because, like, I don't go on YouTube and search up plumbing videos unless I'm trying to fix my own plumbing, but just for general interest, because I'm not a plumber. Yeah. So when the videos were coming up on line work, the initial viewers were other linemen, which was really cool, because I've met a lot of really cool people, mostly in the U.S., but all over the world, that we started emailing back and forth and kind of started networking with each other. They'd say, what's your procedure for this? And we'd learn from each other. So it's not like I'm on there trying to train people and show them what to do. I'm on there showing people what I do, what we do, and other people are giving me their feedback on how they do it. And we're helping each other. We're both learning every day. And then eventually a lot of the general public started falling into it, saying like, wow, this is really interesting. Now I understand why it took 3 hours for you guys to fix that line that was down the other day, because there was a lot of switching involved and grounding and bonding and stuff. And For my local area, it's been a game changer for how the public treats us. For a lot of them that do watch the channel, when they see us out doing something, rather than stopping at the truck and saying, "How long is my power going to be out for?" They'll stop by with bottles of water, and they'll just say, "Thanks, guys, for being out here working."
Yeah.
So it's really cool. It's been a great ride.
That's cool, man, and that's cool to show that different side. And I totally agree with you how you said it's not a how-to. It's just, this is how I do it. I'm showing you a little bit of my world, and for me, it's unique to watch because obviously you're in Canada, and it's characteristically line work is fundamentally the same. But there's different things that I've seen that are just different, just different material, and that's just the way it is. So it's pretty unique to see how that's done. So and we kind of have the same approach with the podcast too. This is not a how-to. We just want to converse. We just want to show you a different perspective, and I think that's what you get with your videos too. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said, line work is a universal language. That's why you can take line work from anywhere in the world, really. Mind you, you go over in Europe and you have completely different systems. But generally speaking, an insulator is an insulator, a conductor is a conductor. You have to insulate the conductors from each other. There's a lot of real basic principles.
Yeah.
And as long as you have a representative from the company or from the area that understands the standards for that area, it's pretty easy to get hundreds of crews out there working safely. And a question that pops up a lot of times on the channel is, I'm going to use a specific example. So rubber glove use, 20K rubber glove use. In our work methods, it states that your rubber gloves must be worn while operating a switching device.
Yeah.
So if you're operating a cutout with a 40-foot extension stick that's tested 100,000 kV or 100,000 volts per foot, a lot of jurisdictions don't require the rubber gloves. So kind of guys would say, like, is it not safe to operate it with leather gloves on like an extension stick that's tested 100,000 volts per foot kind of thing? And I explained to them, I said, our procedure says rubber gloves must be worn while operating a switching device.
Yep.
And it's black and white. So what I tell them is I say, if you're in my jurisdiction, you're doing storm work, you're on my crew, and we're out working, you're going to be required to wear your rubber gloves while operating a switching device. Black or white, it's going to happen. I go in your jurisdiction, and you want to do it within your guidelines, I said I'd have absolutely no problem with that. I'd feel 100% safe with you operating with your leather gloves. Some people feel differently. In that situation, I'm perfectly comfortable with it. I think the main thing is you have to follow the procedures of the geographical area you're working for. And if you have a procedure and you're representing your company that's above and beyond the area you're working for, you should always err on the side of caution and go with the safer procedure for sure.
When did you, we'll go over your numbers, the public numbers. You got over 100,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel. You have one video, I think your best video is over 1 million views. I don't know if you want to get into your other numbers, but when did you realize you were onto something, that this is bigger than just than just a little old YouTube? Like, you're legit, you got a legit following, brother.
Probably when it hit 10K, my stepson called me up literally the moment it hit 10K, and he said, "Hey, you're going to hit 10K." And I was like, wow, that's insane, because it was real slow moving at first, and then I had a couple quick jumps, so it hit faster and sooner than I expected. So he said, just 90,000 more and you'll have 100,000 subscribers and you'll get a YouTube plaque. And I told him, I said, it's a super niche market. I said, you're not going to get that kind of views doing power line videos and stuff. Like, yeah. I don't know, what is there, maybe 80,000 linemen in all of the U.S. kind of thing?
Yeah.
So I was like, if every lineman in the U.S. subscribes to my channel, I still only have 80,000. Like, it's not even an achievable number.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's always kind of weighed heavy on my mind for the topic of the channel. And that's why I always considered it just at a hobby level kind of thing. And my son really pushed me. He said, no, he says, you'll get there. And I jumped up to probably 25K pretty quick after that. And then over the last 2 years, had little jumps here and there. I go up 6,000 to 7,000 in 2 months, and then it would slow right down for 2 months. And when I hit the 75K mark, the last 25 came hard and fast. my goal at that point was by the end of 2020, we're 2023, right?
Yeah.
Oh man,
don't worry, I forget
that's
too.
bad. My goal was at the end of 2023 to hit 100K, and I hit it a month or two ago. And geez, my son was more excited than I was. Like the plaque come in the mail there, and I let him open it, and it was surreal. It's still surreal.
And you're doing it for a good reason. Like you still have your day job, and you're still passionate about sharing your message and just entertaining and educating. So I mean, that's all. And you're helping industry grow, and just kind of bridge those other gaps of just sharing how a lineman in Canada does it, or how you do it. I think that's always pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something I've overly exploited too much. I'm busy enough as it is, so I don't have a whole lot of time to put in the channel. When I do have free time on the weekends, it's editing. It takes up a ton of time.
Yeah. And
my main focus is to keep getting the content out there, just so it doesn't fall out of the algorithm, really.
Yeah.
Keep producing content, but good quality content. I don't want to go on there and put out clickbait and stuff. And I'm not on there just taking ridiculous tools, going on, buy this, buy that. Like anything that I promote, it's 100% real.
Yeah.
And the content is 100% real. There's nothing in my videos that's ever been staged. Any of the outages, they're all 100% real, and just short of basically going live. So I've recorded videos. The only reason I don't go actual live while recording videos is sometimes you see some bad stuff. So you could have an outage call, and sometimes you'll see the Being a Lineman episodes where I'm like, all right, we got an outage call, let's just hit the record button, minimal editing, and let's go. And I've thought about doing it live, but it's not an option, because I've rolled into situations where I show up 3 o'clock in the morning and you see a car in the ditch, no one's around, there's still somebody in that car, and that's not something I'm willing to show on film. So that being said, any of the stuff that's shown in my videos where there is fires, car accidents, they're all situations where there's been nobody that was seriously injured, and there's been no deaths, and there's been no serious property loss, stuff like that. So
yeah, to your point, your videos are raw, and it's a real personal style. Like if you look at California Line Works, the content I put out, it's all to entertain. It's all kind of just showing a different side. But yours is like, you're narrating, you're talking through it, you're calling dispatch, you're talking to the customer, you're working through the problem, you're going through it, you're getting the voltmeter. So it's kind of like the day-to-day. It's a blog. You're a blogger.
Yeah, exactly. And I was scared that people wouldn't be into that kind of thing. I was like, geez, I could make this a little bit more exciting and show this stuff blowing up and all the crazy stuff. But there's enough of that. Like scrolling through TikTok, you want to see the 10 seconds of something crazy, you go into TikTok and you see those quick videos and that. Yeah. And I'm trying to show, again, what it's really like. If you want to be a lineman, you got a son that wants to be a lineman, you watch the videos. This is what it's like. Sometimes you got to wait. Sometimes you got to drive. Sometimes you're waiting for help. Sometimes you don't have the help. It's just, it's real life what I get into on these calls. At our company, of course, it differs depending on where you work. But
what videos tend to move the needle for you? What kind of, is there anything certain?
It's crazy random. I remember one day I was opening a capacitor bank, and I had my GoPro helmet cam with me. I slapped it on. I wasn't even really going to use it for video, so there was a ton of wind noise, couldn't hear nothing. I think it was 2 minutes, and I just opened a capacitor bank with a load buster. And I posted that, and within 2 days it had 80,000 views. But everyone was complaining about the quality of it, the wind noise and stuff, and I was like, I don't even know why I posted that, but it really took off. And then I was kind of like, oh, shoot, I should have put a little bit more work into that one, because I was just going to use the visuals and cut it into another video. But then I was like, oh, I'll just throw it on there and see what people think. So it's really surprising what takes off. I mentioned earlier that the Being a Lineman, you'll see it says Being a Lineman episode 1 to I got maybe 35-ish episodes. Those ones are pretty cool because I pretty much get 20K views on those across the board within 2 weeks when they're dropped. Jeez. So there's 20,000 people that consistently watching that particular style video. And that style differs. If you see Being a Lineman, one of those episodes come out, basically it's me responding to a call with minimal editing. Might be boring for some, but I'm talking through my thoughts. I'm showing up and vocalizing my thoughts as I'm troubleshooting and really trying to get into the details of how we do things, where a lot of the other videos are specific to looking at an underground box or opening a switch or checking out a pad mount or a recloser. But it's totally random.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you kind of find yourself just cruising along with you. I think the video I'm specifically talking about is I know you have some million view shorts, but I think one of the long form videos is the breaker disguised as a meter.
Yeah,
that 1 million has 1 million views.
Yeah,
and you're just kind of cruising along and have along for the journey. And like I said, it's a real like a POV raw video where you're doing your thing.
Yeah, we had and the videos with GoPro cam tend to do better, especially if you can see it in the thumbnail that it's going to be a GoPro video, because people like that POV style video crazy. For sure.
That's dope. That's cool. And I never seen that kind of the meter, that 30 amp breaker was in that meter, I think it was.
Yeah, so that's actually written into our procedures to you have a new construction, like the electrician or the homeowner is not required to be on site when we show up to energize a new home. So not all installs by the inside wiremen are inspected. So we're assuming they know what they're doing. Most guys do. We've got excellent tradesmen in our province. But if they mess something up, when we put that meter on, that's on the source side of that breaker. There's going to be fire flying all over the place. So we have a meter that's a breaker built right into it. You put that on, you flick it. If that breaker trips, we don't hook it up. Call the electrician. It could be because he left all the breakers turned on and all the baseboard heaters going, and it's just the cold load that's tripping it. But if that's the case, better safe than sorry kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a neat little contraption that we know when we put the meter on, there's not going to be an arc flash. So you can do tests with just a simple multimeter, of course, to see if the breaker's open or not, but it's not required for the breaker to be open in our case. And most times if it's not, it doesn't trip that 30 amp breaker. Most times it works just great. And I'm not sure who built it. It's I don't want to say homemade because it's an approved device, but I think I'm just guessing here, but I think it was a local company or some engineers or someone that designed them. But we've got them in all of our trucks in the province.
That's dope.
And I used to think it was kind of normal until I showed it one time online, and everyone's like, well, what is that? Yeah. I'm like, you guys don't use these? And like, never heard of them. And then I started Googling one to see if you could buy one or whatever, and I couldn't find them online. But then there was a guy I think he was from like British Columbia or something like that was like, yeah, we get those in our truck too. And he's like, we get them from some guy that made them or whatever. So it's kind of weird. It should be something that's out there.
Well, with 1 million views, I'm sure sales went up, and the question of Googling that kind of came up too. I myself was I saved it, and I want to check it out a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
What videos what kind of videos you want to create? What do you got up your sleeve, or what's something you want to do?
Sometimes I'll be driving and I'll come up with an idea for a video, and I'll just voice text it in my phone so I don't forget.
Yeah.
And I've probably got 1,000 things written down that I just have trouble going back to, and then I'll be like, all right, next week I want to start working on this idea. But then something will happen and I'll just start recording it and I'll completely forget about that idea. There's a ton of stuff out there that like I want to get into some underground stuff, a little bit more splicing than that. And a lot of my ideas, I've actually filmed the complete videos many times over, but I wasn't happy with the end result. Like I did a video on how to splice 1,000 MCM copper cable. Filmed it from start to finish, and I just didn't like the quality of it. You could see only my chin through the whole video. So I either want you to see my hands or my whole body, not just my chin with like it bopping up and down as I'm talking kind of thing. So I was just like, oh man, I put so much work into that, and I just scrapped it. So that happens a lot, but that's an idea I want to do in the future. A few things I want to do. I want to do some more stuff for apprentices in the trade. I just released kind of an interview video a few days ago where I interviewed the training crew.
Sure.
But I want to go over some things like if you're new to the line trade and you're jumping on with a contractor that's not providing you tools, they say you better show up with a belt and your hooks kind of thing. What to show up with, because we don't want guys going out and spending $3,500 on a crimper and buying all these power tools. There's a basic set of tools you need. Show up to work with that. Go from there. See what the employer is going to provide you and help you out with and stuff. See where we're going to go from there. But I definitely want to touch on that in a video, and I want to get into some specifics of certain tools, like an impact gun, for example. It's not something I've showed in videos, but that's probably used all around North America is impact connectors. Something I've never showed. But there's all kinds of ideas up my sleeve, and sometimes I'll go through my phone and see what I wrote down, and yeah.
I know something I want to ask you about was the feedback you get, and you've been doing it long enough where your videos have probably been through someone in their career, and it's always been kind of that you created that bond. You never met the person, but you've created that bond, and they feel like they know you. Ryan Lucas talks about it on Powerline Podcast, where he says, Ryan's in a position where he gets to see a pre-apprentice go through school, they get their apprenticeship, and they top out. And he talks about the feedback they give him is like, hey man, like thank you for your videos, or thank you for the podcast. What kind of feedback you're getting? Is basically what I'm getting at.
That's my favorite kind of feedback.
Yeah.
I've actually tagged it or pinned it as a top comment in a few of the YouTube videos where someone says, hey brother, I've been watching your videos for 2 years now. I've never left a comment, but I was I worked at the local hardware store, and I just loved your content, so I went on to be a lineman. Never ever left a comment, but watched everything, and now it's a year and a half later, and I'm a second block apprentice, and best decision I ever made. And he says, that's all because of you, man. And when I hear that stuff, it just like it hits you inside for sure. Like you literally made a difference in someone's life when someone comes up to you and says, I did this because of what you do. And you hear that quite a bit. I had that conversation with Ryan as well, and it's really cool when you see those ones. Is that
what kind of motivates you to keep doing them and keep
for sure. There's been definitely times where, like, especially after storms hit, like you're working 14, 16-hour days for weeks on end, and even when the storm's cleaned up, all the crews are going home. The residual damage from the storm and catching up on the work, like, you're just crazy busy. And to take 8 hours to sit down and edit a 5-minute video, it's like, why am I doing this? I don't have time for it. And then you'll go to bed and you'll say, oh, geez, I should check some of my messages. And you'll see a message from a guy that's like, man, just wanted to let you know I quit my job and this changed my life. And then you're like, it kind of gives you that boost to keep doing it. It makes a lot of positive impact on not only their lives, but mine as well. Because people really help lift you up when you're down, because you've established such a good relationship with these people all around the world. It's a huge family. It's a huge brotherhood. It's incredible.
Yeah. We're coming up to hours, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. I know Milwaukee Tool is probably going to space us off to the moon or something next here. Who knows what's going on.
The battery saucer?
The battery flying saucer to the moon is next. I wanted to run this by you and see what you thought. Proximity Night on Instagram. This little video was actually sent to me by my buddy, Journeyman Lineman Dan Jameson. Anyways, Proximity Night tells a story of Belgian horses. They're the strongest horses on the planet, and they can pull individually anywhere from 12 to 14,000 pounds on average. He goes on to say that, but when you combine the two horses, logically you would say that the two horses combined can pull 24 to 28,000 pounds. That's not the case with the horses. When combined, they're yoked together, they can pull 35,000 pounds combined. And that comes from the horse outdoing each other, trying to set the pace. So together they're able to pull more.
They're feeding off
each other, and they want to be the pace setter in it. And that, to my point, is, your content and your following, your viewership of your message. Same thing with Ryan, his positive message, his positive content. You guys are setting a pace, and I think that's great for the industry. Other people are doing it. We're trying to get a part of and be part of that message, that positive culture. So I wanted to say thanks, man, for continuing your message and sharing your perspective and taking the time, because that's time away from your family and into your day. And you could be home doing something maybe that you'd rather be doing, but you're really paying it forward and putting a lot into this into the trade for sure, man.
Yeah, that means a lot. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
and likewise.
Yeah.
It's I think I mentioned at the start of the video, we just started talking here a couple days ago, and we met last night at the hotel, and it's just like I've known you for years, man. We connect instantly. We're both linemen. We're both in the trade. We're brothers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool, man. Is there anything else you want to kind of cover? Wrap it up?
I think any other time I'd talk for another 2 hours, but I'm still kind of jet lagged and lacking in the sleep department a little bit. I got to wake up at 4 a.m. to fly home tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But so I'm a little foggy right now.
No, you're good, man. I just wanted to come on here, share your story, and definitely give thanks to the Milwaukee Tool team. Where can people find you at, brother?
Best place is YouTube. Just punch in Bobsdecline. The channel name is Bobsdecline Lineman Blogger. If you want to get in touch with me, I do monitor all comments. I get an alert, but there's hundreds of them, so I try to respond to a lot of the YouTube comments. And then if you want a more private conversation, Instagram or Facebook. And again, I get a ton of messages. I can't keep up. I try to answer everyone. Sometimes I'll scroll through and I'll see a message I missed from a year ago or something like that, and I'm like, geez, I really want to answer this guy, but would it be weird? It's a year old kind of thing.
Yeah.
So basically, if I don't answer, don't be scared to shoot another message, because sometimes I'll scroll through them and I'll see, I just don't have time to read them all. I might check before heading out to get groceries with the family, and I'll just be like, oh wow, there's 34 messages there that come in this morning, and I'll try to revisit them, and I don't have time, and the next thing you know, they're just buried. So if you have any questions, or if you know where I'm at and you want to meet up, like I said, right now I'm in Milwaukee, and one of my longtime viewers messaged me. We're going to try to hook up later if things work out. But if that stuff like that comes up, shoot a message. If I don't answer, shoot another one. It's hard to keep track, but Facebook, Instagram, and primarily on YouTube.
Dope. And I saw you recording, so you're putting a blog about the pipeline?
Oh, for sure. We're going to have some, check out YouTube, keep an eye on it. We're going to have some stuff up on, it's going to blow your mind, this setup here at Milwaukee.
Absolutely. Speaking of Milwaukee, we're going to wrap this up, see what they got next for us.
Yes, sir.
Special thanks. This podcast is solely being powered by Milwaukee Tool. I want to thank them for having us, having myself. This is dope. Special thanks once again to the marketing, Miss Hannah. Appreciate you. Kelly. The power utility side, Sarno. Troy, remembered his name, Troy Marks, Jack, and Kim. Great stuff, great team. Guys, appreciate you. Catch you on the next one.